Can you explain how you choreograph a dance scene from start to finish?
What I do is I usually have some dancers that I work with. We call that like a skeleton crew, and kind of like a painter with a canvas, I get to paint with them. So depending upon what type of music I'm working with. So for example, I mentioned I worked with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There's some musical um, episodes that I've choreographed, and I will choreograph based upon what the words are saying, which are usually going to be some kind of comical kind of thing because that's what they do. But if it's like a top 40 song, then as a choreographer, I listen to music a little bit differently. Like I listen to music through like the moves that I make, and so kind of like Michael Peters. Have you ever seen the making of Thriller? You see this section where Michael Peters is working with the dancers, and the steps that he's teaching them, it's like step, step, shoulder, look. Those are the basic steps. But when he's speaking with dancers, the steps, he uses his mouth like for sound effects. And that's something I learned from Michael Jackson as well. He'll say something like ba da ba ba, and that's quite different than just step, step, shoulder, look. Like the intent is different. The dancers dance differently. They understand that language. And then that's how I make up dance steps. When I'm listening to top 40 music, I listen for the beats, and then within the beats, I'll add those little sound effects, little moments there, and I can just play with the beats that are there, and it helps me to create the dance steps, and each sound effect that I make with my mouth is a different movement, like or what have you, or what I'm going to do. So the dancers, when they see me making the dance steps up, they're really keen about picking up the steps the first time. And if I don't have dancers with me, then I'll just get a camera and I'll just press record and just dance around, and I'll just kind of pick pieces from there and put them together to make a routine.
And just with a movie opening, it has to be something cinematic and visual. The opening of a dance number, how important is that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The opening of a dance number, what's interesting is the fact that you already have the audience, like they're there to watch the dance. So you don't have to come out with a big boom. Um, you can actually build. Like the best dances that I like are ones that tell stories, that build. Everything can't be like high energy all the time. It's just exhausting. Like I love MC Hammer, but some old MC Hammer stuff, like the levels were always up here. And once in a while, that's okay. But all the time, it's just too much. Just like with a good story, choreography has to have levels. Everything can't be at a 10 in a story, right? It's just you got to have some downtime as well. And I think the same thing is true with dance. Like when Michael Jackson would come out in the performance for Jam for the Super Bowl, the music build. It was like this kind of eerie music, and then you hear this boom and like this jaguar kind of like rah, 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 and then he comes out of the floor and he stands there. So we get this big boom. He comes out of the floor and then just stands there. And then it's raining like, sparkles down behind him. And the crowd is just going crazy. And it's just him standing there. He came out with the boom. He's now just standing there. The dance begins. And then we kind of just, get taken away and stuff like that. So there's levels to dance. And so I try not to have, the same level of stuff in reference to whenever the dance is moving around. I try to find ebbs and flows that I can use. And I use the same kind of technique when it comes to writing as well.
How do you build a scene from scratch with actors?
So the first thing that I like to do is when I'm with the actors on set, I like to practice, or, we like to have our own time. So I kind of like send the crew away and say, okay, we're gonna have a little rehearsal here. And the first thing I do is I always come to the set prepped. So I have my little iPad, and in it I have my little notes. And in the notes I always say, whose scene is this? Because it can't be both characters' scene. At some point, either somebody's going to win this scene. So my question is, whose scene is this? And then with that, I look at, okay, are there little tricks, are there little things in this moment, whether it's in the kitchen or a living room or a courtroom, are there things that I can use to show visually, visually whose scene it is? So there, and a good scene will have both parties, if it's two characters, have moments of being, of winning that scene. So it can't just be one person winning the whole time. So for example, I've had scenes for Saints and Sinners where we have a boss sitting behind a desk and a worker come in, and the worker's standing up and they're telling this boss how they feel about something. And they're going at this boss. And then the boss is like, okay, are you done? And then the boss begins, and then the boss stands up. And now they're the same level, and then the boss walks over around the desk, and they'll stand right, and he's basically in the person's face. So the power level has changed. And so when it comes to the scene, I have that idea already in my mind. Now, what I used to do, which I don't do anymore, but I used to literally tell the characters where they're going to go. Because I have my overheads. I'm always prepared. So I have like a circle here, you move here, blah, 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 blah. It's almost like looking at a football, play. And that's how I used to direct, like when I first started. But now what I do is I know what I want, and I let the characters or let the actors, do what they're going to do. And then if they give me what I wanted anyway, then great. I win, I get what I want. But if they don't, then I'll say, okay, well, what if you did this? I always ask in the form of a question. And then I'll tell them the reason why. I say, well, when he's standing up, he has the power in the room. He's letting you have it. All right, what are you going to do? Sit there and just take it? No, you have a line, right? I said, what's that line again? And then the person says, okay, what the line is. I said, what if you stood up on that line? It's always a what if. I never tell them what to do, because the idea is I'm trying to get their buy-in. And I get their buy-in when they think that they are part of the solution. So I'm always asking what if, or I say, just a bad idea. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I never tell them what to do. I suggest, and then the actors will usually buy in because it makes sense. It's a nice power play in this case of a change of power. So that's how we kind of typically do or that's how I do a scene with actors.
Sure, and then by posing it as a question instead of an actual command, then it feels like more like, oh yeah, I'm in charge of my character. I am this character. Right. So would this feel natural? And instead of feeling like they're being told what to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
And there's been times when they've pushed back and say, well, I don't think they would do that. But then I say, well, then why? And then they'll give me the reason why. I'm like, that's a good point. Sit there the whole time and basically dictate. Like there's been times when a character says, I don't think I would stand up here because I'm in full power and authority. I don't need to try to get, to push myself upon this person. I have the power. Me sitting down shows that I'm not perturbed by you at all. So it depends on how they deliver the lines, of course. And so we try to work on making sure that the lines are delivered in such a way that this person, even though they're not standing up, it's obvious that they have all the power. So there's times when I'll get pushback, but the great thing about it is that we're getting a really good scene because we're all part of it. It's this nice collaborative situation there. And that's the way I like to work. I like to work collaboratively.
What if an actor says this wardrobe, my character would not wear this? I don't feel like my character.
It's happened many times. Oh yeah. And so I would ask why. Like whenever they say something, I always ask why, because if they cannot articulate why, then it stays on. But if they explain why, then I'm like, you know what, that's a good point. And then we'll go and get it changed.
Okay, so you honor the actor wanting to be that character and feeling like they're in that character's skin.
Yeah, I mean they put the work in, and they know this character backwards and forwards. They put the work in. Now I know the character as well, but they're living in that character, and I'm not. And so if they're giving me a compelling reason regarding why this character wouldn't have the hair that they have, the shoes that they have. I mean, there's been shoes, hair, and wardrobe discussions that we've had.
Wow, shoes. Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't wear heels here. Why not? Well, because she'll give me a reason why, and I'm like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Let's find something else that's not so high, or flats. Like okay, or I say, well, what do you suggest? And they'll give me an answer. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Do we have any? And I talked to costumes.
Can you talk about the fulfillment you get from completing a dance routine and sharing it with others?
Oh, wow. Wow, you're taking me back to the days. Um, Here's the funny thing. When it comes to, I think whether it's dance or a good scene in a movie that you're directing, you know when it's good. Like when it's good. When we did Dangerous for the American Music Awards in 1993 with Michael Jackson, we knew it was good. Like it's just Michael and a bunch of guys wearing suits on an empty stage, killing it. The steps they were unique, they were different. Michael looked great doing them. The dancers looked amazing, phenomenal doing it. We knew that it was going to kill. And so we could not wait to open up the American Music Awards in 93. And in fact, I knew that Michael approved because, okay, so this was at the Shrine Auditorium. And underneath it, they have like this basement. And so we were rehearsing in the basement of the Shrine Auditorium as they were getting ready to go live. So it's 5 o'clock here, live 8 o'clock Eastern time. So we're in rehearsal in the basement. And he's like, okay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. So we're doing it again over and over and over again. Okay, as we're going upstairs, all together as a group, getting ready to go onto the stage, he's on the side of the stage and he says, let's hurt him. Let's hurt him. And that's how I knew that he was like, okay, this is good enough to make an impact on people. And we did it. Fell to the floor. People got a standing ovation, and the rest is history. So, when you have a good routine.
Let's take the flip side. And it doesn't have to be anyone you name.
Sure.
But let's talk about something that was planned and you thought it was amazing. All the dancers thought it was amazing, and it didn't impact the audience. And you could tell that from their reaction.
Yeah.
What does that do to the dancers and the choreographers? And what do you think it is that missed? Is it the wrong audience?
Yes. I know specifically of a situation where I was dancing with an artist in DC, and it was for some kind of live community festival thing. And this artist actually he's now a famous actor. Good-looking kid, and we were dancing and everything, and the women, I think they liked him because they thought it was cute, but all the guys hated him. They were sticking their middle fingers up. We were getting boos. We got food thrown on the stage. It was just the wrong scene. The steps were great. He's an amazing singer, great performer, but that wasn't the crowd.
Sure.
It wasn't the crowd.
And they let you know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So literally, they were like, okay, we have one more song. Should we do it, or should we just leave now and get out what we can? So we left.
How is completing a movie scene the same or different? So we talked about, the impact of a great performance and completing it. Same thing with a movie scene.
Yeah, there's it's the same type of situation now, here's the funny thing. In a rehearsal for dance, when it's going to be good because you've done it now. You're full out in front of the mirror, and okay, these steps are freaking amazing. Like we're going to kill the audience. But you don't know that with the scene because you don't really have time for a lot of rehearsals. And when you do rehearse, you're not doing it at 100% with the actors. So you don't know the scene is going to be good. It looks good on the paper. On the page, it looks good. But until the actor actually does it, you don't know. And when they do it, and it slays, it kills, I hold on to the moment. Let's say it's a scene where she's a guy or a girl's kind of going back and forth, and she has this last line, and she's crying or whatever, and I'll just sit there for a moment. I'll let her just sit in it. I won't say cut, and then I'll say cut, and usually it's a quiet cut, and then she still is in that moment, so she's still crying, but when the crew does this, that's when you know that scene killed. Is when the crew is giving you applause. And I've had a couple of those.
And then there's probably a second layer, and that is, will the audience react? Have you ever had something where it was amazing in person and the crew loved it and you loved it, but then for some reason the audience didn't relate to it?
It's a good question. I don't recall something like that happening. And the interesting thing is, you know, I haven't had anything that's been in the movie theater, so I couldn't get an audience from the movie theater. But for the TV shows, I live tweet. So as we're watching it together, I'll know the way people feel, and you see the way people feel, and usually it's pretty much spot on, because the crew, they don't know the story, so the crew is is the first audience, and so if they're feeling a certain way, you know, these people that are watching that have invested 5 seasons into these characters, they're definitely going to feel that. So I've never had a situation where no, the audience didn't feel what the crew felt. It's always come to fruition that actually no, they felt the same thing, and they let you know through their tweets. So like that's one thing I do like about Twitter, even though it can be a cesspool, is for shows when you live tweet with the audience, they will let you know how they feel, good or bad, and it's always for those moments, it's always played.